everyone, it's Dina and welcome back. And if you're new to my channel, howdy, I'm glad you made it. Today I'm excited to show you how to make this beautiful bracelet using beads from the Gemstone Orphanage's Tiger's Eye collection. We'll be working with crystal cube beads, tiger's eye pillow beads, rich dark brown bugle beads, and a classic button closure. Also, we'll be using Miyuki 11 seed beads to add those perfect finishing touches. Throughout this tutorial, I'll be guiding you step by step using a combination of beading stitches, the right angle weave, square stitch, and a double right angle weave. After this opening, you'll see a full list of supplies you'll need to get started, so be sure to pause there if you want to gather your materials first. And don't forget, there's also a special bonus tutorial waiting for you at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that surprise. Let's gather up those supplies, meet me back in a minute, and we'll get started. Have our supplies out and ready to go, we can get started. So this is my plan of doing this bracelet. I'm going to do either or on this. So we'll start off with the right angle weaves portion right here. Then I'll break away, let you finish that, and then I'll show you how to do the rectangle portion, which is where the square stitch will come into play. And then you can finish out the bracelet for however many that you want to make it with. I'll probably end up using all 20 of the cube beads that came with the kit, and I'll probably only be using 4 of the pillow beads that came in the kit. That's my plan, at least, to do every other just like this, starting and ending with a right angle weave cubes. Then at the end, I'll measure it and figure out where it's at, and then I'll show you how to add at least 1 double right angle weave on either end of the bracelet, so that way if you need to add extra, if you have a larger wrist, or if you're making this bracelet for somebody that does have a larger wrist, then you can add a little extra. And then from there, I'll show you how to add that button. So that's my plan for this. So we'll start off with this section where I'm going to show you how to do the right angle weave and the little embellishment. So to start off, I already have a stop bead on my thread. I just put one of my 11-0s down in the bottom, and I left quite a bit of room at the end of it just so I can show you how to do the double right angle weave if you're needing to add on to it. So we are going to start off with this first one with 4 of our cube beads and then a Miyuki seed bead in between. I'm just putting these out on the mat because they're a little bit easier to pick up than from the tray. Sometimes the tray, my needle gets stuck in the middle of the tray and my beads go flying. So, but it's an extremely helpful tray. So pick up a cube bead, a seed bead, until you have that combination of cube and seed bead 4 times. So I started with the cube, so I need to end with the seed bead. So that's what you should have on your thread. Go ahead and pull that down all the way to your stop bead. Just like that. And what I'm going to do, since these are kind of heavy cube beads, I'm going to go through every single one of these cubes one more time. And every time I do the right angle weave stitch with the cube beads, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make the rounding first, and then I'm going to go right back through them a second time. That's just to get your extra strand of thread through that, so those heavier cube beads can handle the thread and everything. The thread won't break as easily. So I'm currently coming out of this seed bead right here. I'm going to go ahead and skip on over through the next cube bead, and then come out that next seed bead just after that. Don't go through your stop bead right here. That we're going to take off at the very end. So don't use that. I know in some of my tutorials I use the stop bead, but I'm not going to use it in this one. So there you go. So your stop bead is over here off to the side, and then there's your right angle weave unit. Now we're going to do a little bit of embellishing to this. To get that done, we're going to need some more of our seed beads, and then just one of our bugle beads. Now you want to be careful with the bugle beads because sometimes the edges of the bugle beads can be very, very rough and it might fray your thread. And so that's why I suggest in the description down below, as well as in the listing of the supplies, to use either wildfire or fireline or dragon thread, something that's thermally bonded type thread. Something like Miyuki thread or something that is not technically thermally bonded may not work very well with the bugle beads. It may fray and cut a lot easier. So that's why I'm suggesting to use that. Of course, you can use whatever you feel like you want to use. But I'm going to put on 3 of these seed beads, 1 of the bugle beads, and then 3 more seed beads. I'm coming out of this 11-0 up here. Get that in focus. This 11-0 up here on the right hand side. I'm going to jump to the 11-0 on the opposite side and go in from the right to the left. And then I usually turn my beadwork to the side a little bit. That usually helps to kind of keep it to one side. It really doesn't matter which side it goes to at this moment, just as long as we use that as our front side. No matter where this is at, that'll be our front. So we're coming out of the right angle weave 11-0 down here at the bottom. We want to go back through those 7 beads that we just added. So the 3 seed beads, the bugle bead, and the 3 seed beads again on the other side. And if you can't make it all in one swoop, that's fine. Just take a couple of beads at a time. So now I'm coming out back at the top again, where we first started. Now remember, when we first started adding the 3 seed beads and the bugle bead, we were coming out of the right hand side of the right angle weave 11-0 up there. So to finish this out, we want to go from the left to the right of that same seed bead that is in the right angle weave unit. Just like that. And when you finish that out, that will get 1 thread path on either side of that seed bead up here at the top, and then also down here at the bottom. You'll have 1 on either side. So to move on to the next unit, to get started to that, I won't show you that until the next clip, but to get started, or get ready to get started for that next one, we want to continue through the cube bead, the 11-0 that's sitting next to it, the next cube bead, and then come out that 11-0 that was down on the bottom where we added our embellishment to. Now this will make our bracelet sit in this fashion, where our bugle beads are sitting horizontally. If you prefer your bugle beads to sit vertically like this, then just come out of one of these 2 side 11-0s and then just follow along with me. Completely fine, you can do that as well. And you can also mix it up. You can have one sitting this way, and then you can have one sitting that way. Whichever is more to your liking. So go ahead and get this portion done, and if you need to, after we get the second portion done, you can always jump back to this portion of the video if you need a refresher on how to do the right angle weave. So meet me back in a second and I'll show you the next one, next step. Alright, so for the next step, we're going to first start off with the square stitch. So I've flipped my product around, so where I now have the working thread coming out of what I'm now considering the top portion, and then this is the bottom portion right now, and this is where our stop thread was coming out of. So I'm coming out of that topmost right angle weave 11-0 that's sitting there. We're going to square stitch on another 11-0. So to do this square stitch, pick up one of your 11-0s. Try not to drop your beads like I just did. But pick up one of your 11-0s. We're coming out of the right hand side. There we go. Focus. I may have to move the beads out of the way from behind it. I think I'll do that. Sometimes it can focus no problem, and then other times it has issues. So there we go. So we're coming out of the right hand side of the right angle weave 11-0. We added our seed bead, and we're going to follow that same thread path and then go from the left to the right in that same bead. And then do not go through one of the crystals. My needle tried to go through one of the crystals just then, so try not to go through one of the crystal. Then when you pull tight, your bead's probably going to sit a little wonky like it's sitting, like mine is right now. To get that straightened up, we're going to go back through the bead that we just added, going from the right to the left. I'm going to turn this to the side because it's a little bit easier for me tension-wise. And then that got it a little bit closer to the right angle weave unit. I'm going to continue back down into the right angle weave seed bead, so the one that we started out of, and then that gets 2 thread paths through our square stitched 11-0, and it looks a little bit nicer and a little bit neater. So that's how you do the square stitch. To continue on, we're going to go ahead and go back through our new 11-0 seed bead, and now we're getting set up to add our gemstone. So go ahead and pick up one of your gemstone pillows or the rectangles, and then pick up another 11-0, and then pull that down to the product. And then this part, all you have to do is go back through your gemstone, skipping that 11-0, so that way it sits more of kind of like a picot. And then from here, we want to get back up here again to the 11-0 that's up here that we skipped just now, so that way we can continue on with the bracelet. So when we first went through this rectangle, I'm pulling it loose a little bit so you can see, we were coming out of the left-hand side of that new 11-0 that we square stitched on. So now we have to go from the right to the left in order to get a thread path on either side of that 11-0. And then just kind of tug on it a little bit, and then that way it will kind of tighten up over a little bit, a couple of tugs, and then now you have your gemstone on. So now let's get set up to start our next right angle weave unit. So go back through your gemstone, and then once you get to the other side of the gemstone, it really doesn't matter which way that you go through your 11-0 up here, just whichever side is comfortable. Since I'm right-handed, then I'm going to go from the right to the left. And what we'll need to do on this one is pick up another 11-0 so we can square stitch another 11-0 to this portion, to this bead right here. This is going to be the same 11-0 that's going to share the right angle weave section. So go ahead and pick up your 11-0, and then we're going to square stitch this one on in the same fashion that we did the other. Just like that. Go back through that 11-0, and then back through the original 11-0 right next to the rectangle or the pillow, and then now you have your next square stitched 11-0 on. And then when you get up here to the top, you are now set up to start adding your next right angle unit. Now the only thing that is different with this new right angle unit is on the first one we added 4 cubes and 4 seed beads. Well, you already have one of your seed beads sitting here, so we need to start with a cube because we have a seed bead there, then pick up a seed bead, cube, and so on until you have all 4 cubes but only 3 seed beads. And then after that, the process is the same as that first clip of the tutorial. So now that I have all 4 of my cubes on and I have only 3 of my seed beads, I'm coming out of the right hand side of my new 11-0. That's going to be part of my right angle unit. I'm going to go from the left to the right and then pull tight, and then now you see the similarity to the very beginning. So go back through these beads one more time, and then add the embellishment, and then come back and watch this if you need to, and need to get that refresher on how to add a square stitch, and then your pillow, rectangle pillow bead, and so on and so forth. Now, like I said in the very beginning, I'm going to do 5 units of the right angle weave with 4 of my pillow beads on in between the right angle weave units. Once I get done with that, I'll come back and I'll show you how long it is to give you an idea of the length of it, and then we'll figure out how many of the double right angle weave units that we'll have to add here at the very end and on the other end in order to make it a little bit longer if you need it. So meet you back in a second and we'll continue. Alrighty, so I've got my 5 sections of the raw units with my 4 pillow rectangle beads in between. So it's looking pretty cute and pretty nice and pretty sparkly. So I'm liking it. Alright, so now we're going to measure it. So I finally got myself a mandrel. Yay! So we're going to measure this guy. And I usually make my bracelets anywhere between 7.5 and 8 inches. Sometimes I make them a little bit smaller, 7 to 7.25, somewhere around in there for those that have smaller wrists. I say, but the majority of the time it's somewhere in between a 7 and an 8 of what I do, with 7.5 being the most common one that I usually make. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my bracelet around the 6.5 inch mark, and I'm going to see how many, or estimate how many units of the double raw unit that I'm going to need in order for this to touch each other. Because the button clasp that we're using is going to take up at least an inch. Now the button itself is almost 3/4 of an inch in width, so there's a good chance that it's probably going to be about a little bit more than an inch. As far as the clasp is concerned, it might end up being 1.25 inches. So I'm going to kind of estimate how many double raw units I'm going to need on either side, and I'm going to start off with 2. I'm going to do 2 raw units on either side, measure that out, and see if that fits, and if I need to add or subtract or anything like that. That's what I'll end up doing. These are pretty easy to take off, the double raw units at least, so if you end up putting too many on, then they're usually pretty easy to take off if you need to. So I'll show you how to start off that double raw unit, and then I will break off and show you how to, or come back and tell you how many that I ended up making of the units, so that way if you want to follow on you can. Oh, one other thing before I go too far, I know on some people this is going to drive them nuts. See how my bugle beads are up on the top on most of these? And look at that second one. The second one is flipped around to the back. I know that's going to drive some people insane. If you are one of those, then by all means, add that embellishment to the bottom side of this too. There's no reason why you couldn't do that. It would look just as beautiful if you have the embellishment on either side. I just like that versatility that sometimes when you put your bracelet on, it may flip over like that and show you different views and different looks. So I like that versatility, but I know not everybody does. So we're going to start off with square stitching on another bead, just in the same fashion that we did in the previous section. And then after that, we're going to do our double raw unit. Oh, that's my stomach growling. Hopefully you didn't hear that. If you did, sorry, that's my stomach growling. It's getting close to dinner time. Wow, that's embarrassing if you heard that. Okay, so we're going to pick up 4. Oh my. Okay, we're going to pick up 4 seed beads. And then we're coming out of the right hand side of that square stitched seed bead that we just added, and go ahead and go to the left to round out in the same direction. To continue on with this stitch, we want to go through that first seed bead, and only that first seed bead. And then we're going to pick up another seed bead. We're coming out of that first seed bead here that we just added in the 4, and then we're going to go through the next. And then that kind of puts that seed bead that we just added in kind of a picot style. You can probably hear my husband in the kitchen right now too. He's making dinner. So pick up your next seed bead, go through the next bead number 3 in our 4 beads that we just added. That puts a picot-like bead at the top. We've got one more to add. Add one more seed bead, go through the 4th seed bead that we added in that original 4, and then now you have a little double right angle weave unit. So to continue on to get to the next one, we need to get up here at the top. So go ahead, you can either go through the original seed bead here, that was the square stitch seed bead that we added, or you can skip over it. I usually skip over it, but it really doesn't matter. You can do it either way. The only time that you're going to notice or potentially notice thread and things like that is when you're using bigger beads, and I'm having issues getting into this bead. There we go. But sometimes when you use bigger beads, you'll see a little bit of thread path there. It really doesn't matter. And then on this one, I'm trying to get closer to everything so I can see a little easier, and hopefully everything is staying in focus. I don't think that shot was in focus that well, but I'm just continuing through my beads if it was not in focus until I get to that topmost bead. Now we're set up to do the next unit. I'm not going to square stitch on the next unit. I'm just going to use this as my peak that we use down here. Now you could square stitch on another bead and then do the same thing again. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do the double right angle weave unit, double raw unit. So I'm going to add my 4 beads. Coming out of the left hand side of that top bead, I'm going to go from the right to the left. And then don't forget to go through that first bead that you added out of that 4. And then that's when you start adding your extra beads. So go ahead and continue to do that. Like I said, I'm going to do these first 2, and then I'm going to come down here at the very beginning, get my thread all the way over here, add square stitch on a bead, and then add 2 of them over here. Then I'm going to measure again and figure out where I'm at. Now, like I said, I don't want to forget to add enough room for whatever closure that you're using. So I'm going to leave at least an inch. It's probably going to be an inch to an inch and a quarter, somewhere around in there. And that will give you enough room to be able to add your embellishment. So just to give you a little bit of a sneak peek on my special little extra tutorial, I'm going to be using this on my bonus tutorial, so please stay tuned and you'll see what I end up using with this. So I'll meet you back in a second and we'll see what this is going to look like. Alright, so I am done with the beaded portion of the bracelet. I ended up adding 3 sections to either side. Now the only other thing that I had forgot to mention is that I am going to use wire guards. The back of this button does have a shank to it, so you can perfectly use just seed beads to go through that. I always feel like putting a wire guard on just gives that a little bit more stability and a little bit more strength and everything. That this is going to be one of the parts of your bracelet that's going to get a lot of wear and tear. So having something like a wire guard on will help with keeping your button and your bracelet together a little bit longer, I feel like. So that's what I'm going to end up doing. So we need to leave a little bit of extra room to add those as well. So when I put this on the mandrel and I wrap it around, we're sitting at right around the 6.5 inch mark right there. And we go down to the back, and that should be just about a right enough amount of room to add your wire guards on either end of your double raw units down there, and then you should be touching. And like I said, don't forget that we're making it 6.5 at the moment, but we're going to add our clasp, so it's going to be at least another inch. So if this works out correctly, it should be somewhere around in here whenever we get our clasp on. So we'll test it out and see if my estimations are correct. But right now we're going to add our wire guard. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Wire guard is a little horseshoe shaped finding. It has 2 holes down here at the bottom, and then it has a channel up here at the top. So take one of your ends, go up through one of your needles, go up through this one side of the wire guard, and then pull it down to the product. Go ahead and go down the other side of the wire guard. And then usually what I do is I like to try to pinch the wire guard in between my 2 fingers. That way it helps allow to get the thread to sit in the channel of the wire guard. Then once you're done adding that, then we're coming out, what side are we coming out of? We're coming out of the left hand side of the topmost bead of that raw unit. So we're going to go through the right hand side, and hold on, before you do that, we forgot to add the clasp. Don't forget to do that. Okay, so before you do that, get your button on there. It would still work just fine without that, but you're going to want your button on there on one of these sides. So go ahead and do that. And then just make sure that your wire guard sits, or your button sits inside the wire guard. Now we're going to go through the seed beads sitting there. Okay, now this is the part that might be a little bit on the difficult side. What you want to do is you want to go back up through that wire guard at least one more time, if not 2 more times. So go up the side of the wire guard, then go through the shank of the button, and then go down the other side of the wire guard. And then this, you don't really have a way of pinching the wire guard to make sure that the thread stays in the channel. Just take it slow and it will go through. It'll work. You just have to do it slowly. And if you need to, you can always use your needle to kind of guide your thread around in order for it to sit in the channel the right way. And there we go. Now we're in the channel. So now I can pull down tight and we're good. So I'm going to go through that one more time. And then in doing so, that should get 3 paths of our thread through the wire guard, and that should give it a really good stability boost with using buttons. There we go, in that channel. Alright, so now all we have to do is just tie off. So I'm going to continue through the next 1 or 2 beads in the raw unit here until my needle comes out. And we're just going to do a simple knot. So go underneath the bridge of one of your threads right there, which I usually just go through the center of the raw unit, make a loop, go through that loop with your needle, and then you want to pull down tight in between 2 beads. Just make sure you don't wrap around any beads. And I'm going to do that one more time. And then I will break off, let you finish adding your button or your clasp of choice. And then I'll come back and I'll show you how to do the seed beaded loop to the button. And then we have that extra little bonus tutorial. Okay, so I got that 2 knots in there, and now I'm just going to move a couple of beads away. And then I'm just going to make sure also that I'm on the back side of the bracelet. Now if you added your embellishments on both sides, or if you're not too worried about the embellishments flopping around and everything, then a front side and a back side may not be a big thing. So go ahead and burn down close to the product. Leave about 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch of your thread. And then use your burner to burn down a little ball of your thread to the product. Just make sure not to go through any of your beads or your other thread paths and everything. So then that is the button already completed and on. So now I will break away, let you finish that. I'll come back and we'll show you how to make the loop portion for your clasp. Meet you back in a second. Alright, so I've already tested my loop out to see how many seed beads I'm going to be adding, and I have counted out 40 of my 11-ohs and already put it on my thread and needle. So all I did is I just wrapped around this very last, or the tip most part of the last double raw unit, and then just created a loop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this loop one more time. I may end up going through it 2 more times, but I'm going to do it one more time first, and then we're going to measure it on the mandrel just to make sure that we're going to be sitting right around the 7.5 inch mark. Now you could do this in a couple of different ways. You can add the 40 seed beads, because this ends up being kind of a little bit too many beads, but you can add either the same 40 seed beads, or you can add another double raw unit here to give you a little bit more length on one side. Then you don't have to add as many. It looks like somewhere around 30, I'd say maybe 36, 38 or something along those lines would fit around this button. Now, of course, it depends on what type of clasp you're using, what type of button you're using, and all of that. All of that is going to factor into how many seed beads you're going to need to use, as well as if you're using a different brand. I always use Miyuki on 90% of my videos, so Miyuki is just my seed bead of choice. In a different brand, there's a potential that you'll have a different count. Toho, you'll have a different count. Check beads, so on and so forth. So, what I'm going to do is, first off, you want to test it, make sure it goes around your button. So it goes around the button quite easily. And then, like I said, I was trying to shoot for a 7.5 inch bracelet, so let's see how close I got. So I'm going to put this on the mandrel, let it fall down, make sure everything is smooth, and I think I got pretty darn close. I'm sitting like right at that line in between 7.25 and 7.5. So I think I got pretty close on that, so I'm pretty happy. Okay, so all I'm going to do is just go through that loop one more time, and then I'm going to tie off the thread in the same fashion that I did over here with the button. So if you need a refresher on that, you can back up to that clip and get your refresher on that. So that is going to be our bracelet that we're going to make. But like I said in the very beginning, we're going to have that extra tutorial. So here is another little sneak peek. So stay tuned and I'll show you how to make that. Alrighty, so here is my bonus tutorial. So I'm doing this as a bonus only because the stitch itself is pretty simple, that once you get the basics down on it, then it's pretty repetitive to do this rope itself. So I felt like doing a whole separate tutorial would have been like a very short tutorial, so I felt like just adding it on to the end of this one. So we're going to make this rope. This rope is called a twisted herringbone rope with 3 beads, I think. Something like that. It's basically, it's a twisted or a, twisted herringbone rope with 3 beads. So yeah, I think that's what it's called. It's kind of a new stitch for me. It's something that I did several years ago when I first started learning how to bead and everything. I did the 2 bead twisted herringbone rope and kind of forgot about it, that there was this 3 bead one too. So it's one of those type of stitches that you kind of have to have a little bit of a background with herringbone and how to do a beaded rope with herringbone. So if you're not familiar with that, I know Potomac Beads has a lot of different videos that you can go back and search for. A lot of different tutorials and things like that that use the herringbone stitch and tubular and flat herringbone and all sorts of different things like that. Jill Wiseman is another person that has a lot of good tutorials. That's actually who I went to remind me how to do this stitch right here, is I went to Jill Wiseman's site and used her tutorial. So hopefully I will teach you in the correct way, and hopefully it won't be completely copying everything that she taught me, but it's a stitch, so we'll go with that. But this is the rope itself. I ended up doing a total of 17 inches of the rope. So I've already got one of the wire guards on, so I'll come back and I'll show you how to add the wire guard. This does take time. It took me probably a good, I'd say 4 to 5 hours to do this mount. So I'm doing about a 17-inch necklace, or an 18-inch necklace, so there's 17 inches of beaded work there. So it does take time, but it's one of those things that I just sat down in front of a baseball game, watched my baseball game, and just did the stitch as I went. Alright, so to start off, I have 8 O's that I'm using in 3 different colors. I have the darker pink, I have the green, and then I have the normal pink, and I have black thread on my needle, so that way you can see my thread paths and things like that. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to start off with a ladder stitch. So I'm going to pick up 3 of the dark pink and pick up 3 of the green. And the ladder stitch is just going to help give us a base that we can stitch, that we can use to stitch on the rest of the stitch itself. So go back through those first 3 dark pink beads. And then when you do that, it will sit the green beads right next to the dark pink ones. So go ahead and go back through the green beads one more time. And this is just kind of to stiffen up the stitch, make it a little bit tighter, a little bit nicer. And then we're going to go back through the dark pink one more time. And then we need to add our other pink color of our beads. To do that, we need to proceed back through the green. And this is really the only time that we're going to do the extra strengthening. After that, we're not going to worry about it. So we're going to pick up 3 of our pink beads. And then we're going to square stitch on the 3 pink beads to the green. So go through the top of the green beads and then circle back through, going from the bottom to the top of these pink beads. Now we need to make it into a tube. To do that, and I love this word, we're going to taco it. So we're going to pinch the 2 pink beads together, the dark and the normal color. And then we're going to do another stitch to help stitch these together. So we're going to go down the dark pink beads. Then we're going to go up the right hand side, which are the normal color of the pink beads. And now you're set up to start your herringbone. So for herringbone, you always pick up 2 beads and you're like coming out of one bead and then you go down another. To do the twisted herringbone, you're always going to go down 2 beads. When you turn around to come back up, you're only going to go up 1 bead to do the twisted portion. So the only thing that is different between any other type of normal herringbone, because on normal herringbone ropes, you'll be using an even number of beads. So if this was a total of 4 different colors, then we would pick up the pink, and then the dark pink, go down the dark pink, come up the green, and then whatever your 4th color is, you would add a green in that 4th color and then proceed on. Well, this, we only have the 3 colors. So for that, we're going to pick up a pink because that's what we're coming out of, and then we're going to pick up a color that we're going to go into. So we're going to pick up the dark pink. Like that. Come on, focus. There we go. And then, like I said, we're always going to go down 2 beads. And then we're going to twist our product to get ready to add the next one, and we're going to go up only 1 bead. So we're going to go up that 3rd bead in line there. And then when you do that, it's going to kind of make that bead that you only went up 1 in kind of lean to the side, which is perfectly fine because that's what we're looking for. So now we need to add our green bead. So all we do is we just add our green. We're going to continue down the pink beads. We're going to go down the 2 pink beads that we need to go down. And then pull your thread. Now we need to get to where we can add another round. So just go up that last dark pink bead, so the topmost one. Go down 2, go up 1. So just remember that. Go down 2, go up 1. And then when you pull it tight, see how that dark pink bead is kind of leaning to the right a little bit. Perfectly fine. So now it's a little bit different. That first round we started off adding the pink and the dark pink. Well, now we're coming out of the dark pink, and our next bead that we're going to go down is going to be the green. So that's going to be the 2 beads that you would add on this one. A dark pink and a green. And then we are trying to get focused. There we go. Go down 2 beads on the left. I keep getting caught on my pliers off to the side. And then twist your product and go up the bead, the next bead on the left, which is your pink bead. Don't forget to kind of pull a little tight so it kind of gets that twisting to start. We need to pick up our pink bead, go down the next 2 dark pink beads on the left, twist your product, and go up the 1 green bead on the left. Down 2, up 1. down 2, up 1. And see, now you can kind of see that it's starting to twist a little bit. So I'll do a couple more a little bit faster. So this one is going to be a green and a pink bead, going down 2, twisting the product, go up 1. And I'm loving this color combination. I may actually make a necklace with this. Pick up your dark pink bead, go down 2 of the green, and then go up 1, twisting the whole way. So every time you add beads, you're going to add either 2. The first round you're going to add 2, and then you're going to add 1. And then you're going to add 2 again, and then 1, so on and so forth. So I'll do one more because this is the same color combination that we first started off with. The pink and the dark pink. Go down 2. Twist your work. Go up 1. Add your green bead. Go down 2. Twist your work and go up 1. And there you go. So that is the twisted herringbone stitch using 3 beads. So if you want to follow along with me, go ahead and finish that out. I have the colors of the beads that I used in this listed down in the description. So if you want to use the same colors to finish out your necklace along with me, then you can. So meet me back in a second. I'll show you how to get that wire guard on, and then we'll finish this necklace out. Alrighty, so once you get your rope portion completed, then it's time to add your wire guards. So I've already got the one added on the one side, so I'll show you how to do it on this side. So we're essentially going to add the wire guard as if we were adding another row of our 3 stitch herringbone stitch. So I'm going to go up one of the sides of the wire guard, just like that. And then I'm going to bring it down to the product, go down the other side of the wire guard. Now I'm currently coming out of the gold seed bead right here. So I'm going to go into the next brown seed bead. And then I'm going to go down, if I can get it, there we go. I'm going to go down 2 and up 1 again. So I'm going to continue just like we were adding another stitch together. So I'm going down 2 of the brown, going to twist it around, and then I'm going to go up 1 of the silver line brown, which is the silver line root beer color. Now I'm going to go ahead and catch on to that same side of that wire guard that we just came out of, if I can. Of course it's far away from my head. Come on now, work for me. There we go. So I'm going to go up that same side that we just came out of, and then I'm going to go down the first side that we came out of, and then that puts us right next to the gold seed bead again. And then I'm going to go down the gold seed bead. Now this one I'm just going to go down a couple of rows because we've already got 2 thread paths through the wire guard. So I'm going to go down a couple of rows. Now you could, see how that thread path is? Good, I'm glad that that finally happened sometime or another. So see how that thread is sitting across like that? It didn't end up in my wire guard. So to get that fixed, you just have to tug on this just ever so slightly and get it loosened up, and then pinch it again like I usually do, and I didn't pinch it that time, so that's probably why my thread didn't go into the wire, into the chamber. And then that way you've got your thread down into the wire guard. So I'm glad that happened, so that way I can show you what it looks like if that ends up being not in the right spot. So now all we have to do is tie off. Now with this being a necklace, I like to tie off at least 3 times. So we're going to do this similar like we did in the bracelet. And then I'm going to go down a couple of beads. And then get to another bridge thread. And tie off a second time. And some of these beads are really tight because I'm a very tight bead weaver. So sometimes they're really hard to get into sometimes. If that's the case, just wiggle your needle through. You don't want to pull it through too tight or too forcefully because sometimes you can break a bead. And that's really sad when that happens. So here's number 2. And then we're going to go down the next 3 beads to get to the next bridge thread. And I'm just wiggling it through because it's kind of tight. And I'm bending my needle a little bit, but that happens. There we go. And then do this the 3rd time. So go up underneath that bridge thread, make yourself a loop. Go through that loop once, and then pull down in between some beads. I'm going to jump over to the brown seed beads now. I feel like it'll hide the thread a little bit easier. Just go a couple of beads away, and then that's where I'm going to burn off. And then all we have to do after this is assemble our necklace. So I've already got all the pieces out. I've got a couple of jump rings. I've got a little extender chain because I like to add an extender chain on my necklaces for the most part, because just because I like an 18-inch necklace doesn't mean that the next person that wants to purchase the necklace does like an 18-inch necklace. So I like to give that option. So we're going to go ahead and actually we're going to string this on first. Almost forgot. Okay, so our front, I've got this upside down, but this is how I figure out what side the lobster clasp will go on. Majority of the time people are mostly right-handed, so usually or typically the lobster or whatever portion of the clasp that will clip on to the other side is going to be on the right-hand side. So I'm holding it upside down so that way you know which side is going to have the lobster. So this is your right-hand side, this is going to be your left-hand side. So this is going to be the side that we're going to add the lobster. So I'm going to go ahead and add the jump ring first, and it's already open. I just happen to have some jump rings that are already opened. And then add your lobster, and then close that up. Just like that. And then on the other side, we're going to add the jump ring, and then I'm going to add the extender chain, which is just some extra curb chain that I have laying off to the side, and it happens to be a stainless steel curb chain. My lobster clasp is stainless steel as well as the jump ring, so I like to try to use as much stainless steel as possible to help with allergies if there's that potential. So close that off, and then I made a cute little dangle to put on the end of the necklace, and this is the 4mm tiger's eye gemstones that came in the kit. I had a couple of those left over from my previous projects, and so I just made a cute little dangle with a couple of the gold seed beads that I used in the necklace. So I'm just going to open up that dangle by twisting to the side. Then we're going to put it on the end of the extender chain, which is about a 2-inch extender chain. It may have been a little bit longer than a 2-inch, but it's somewhere around in there. So this is going to be an 18 to 20-inch necklace, and then close up the little dangle. And then now you have a completed necklace as well as a completed bracelet. So here is your necklace off to the side, and then here is the bracelet. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed creating this tiger's eye bracelet using these stunning beads from the Gemstone Orphanage collection. If you stuck around for the bonus tutorial, wasn't that a fun surprise? I'd love to hear what you think about it in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a new jewelry making video. I've got more exciting tutorials coming out soon. Thanks again, everyone. I really appreciate it. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye now.